which angle I'm looking at.
Hello, lovely people. Welcome to today's edition. As you already know, every week we bring you special guests to share their life experience with you so that some of the mistakes or the challenges they went through in some part of life, you will not go through these kind of challenges. Today I have one special guest which I love and cherish so much. For me personally, I love his voice so much. The first time I met him online and I was just attracted by his voice. And I was like, what? Man, I need you on my platform to share your experience. And he's no other person than Mr. Tshepo. He's from South Africa. He's currently a teacher in China. He is an author as well. And guys, you really love his book. I don't want to talk much about him. I want him to introduce himself. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you, Mr. Dax. I am doing great, and what an amazing introduction already. um, it is a pleasure to be here.
Wow.
I'm very sure you're going to ask the right questions so that I can answer
You said
and
the right
give
question.
the public
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, wow. Thank you very much for honoring our invite. So, if somebody is to watch us, why do you think somebody should watch this conversation to the end?
Firstly, it's because it's going to be a very honest conversation.
Wow.
And secondly, is because some of the things we are going to share here really might
Yes.
impact you, not just for today, but for quite a long time, 10, 15 years from now.
Wow.
Mm,
That's so powerful.
yeah.
Impact. I think we all need impact in our lives. I personally, I need impact as well. Wow. So, which country are you from, anyways?
I'm from South Africa. Yes, South Africa. It's in Africa, the South.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. I love your surname. How do you pronounce your surname? I love Rolihara. That is Nelson Mandela's other name.
Yes.
How do you mention your surname? I love these kind of names.
Oh my goodness. My surname is Matleketla. Matleketla.
Mateketa. So it's a Zulu name?
No, it's actually a Tswana name.
Oh, Zwana. Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yes.
That's cool. So, y- you are an English teacher in China. Why
In China.
China? Why
I
China? Because many people have always had American dream, and you had a China dream.
no, it didn't work out like that actually. Um I had a Saudi Arabia dream.
Oh, Saudi Arabia.
Actually, that's where I wanted to go for real, before coming to China. So,
Why Saudi?
hey,
That's tr-
I had I studied geology. So,
okay.
as geologists, we know that Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, they produce oil.
Oh,
That
okay.
means oil generating countries actually pay well in terms of teaching jobs. And
Wow.
also because they are Islam, and I don't know if it was me being over over passionate about spreading the gospel. I wanted
Oh,
to go there and reach out, you know, for some reason,
yes.
somewhere in my heart. That was a deep desire. But uh, I think God had a different plan for me.
Yeah.
So even though I searched, I did find a job in Qatar. In Qatar actually, but
Yeah.
it was a scam. After my dad saw the invitation to come to Qatar, he said you should
Yeah.
go to the embassy. You never know if this is real or fake. And I
Fake.
went to
Yeah.
the embassy and I found out that it was fake. It
Oh.
was going to be a scam. So the next best thing was to look for other options. And a friend of mine found me looking for jobs. And he said, "Why don't you go to China?" And I started searching
Oh.
for China, just like that. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
I asked him why China. He said my friend is in China already, and he could
Oh,
probably.
okay.
So it was amazing how smooth it was, and I came to China.
Wait, you never had a dream of coming to China. Your friend just introduced China to you.
In
What moved you to come to China? Even before, when you just heard that offer, what came to mind?
Hey, my story is very long. I was unemployed. I had
Oh, okay.
recently been fired, as a matter of fact, from my teaching job in South Africa. And
Oh,
then,
sorry.
as a result of that being on my CV, and because the
Yes.
boss was on my reference list, whenever I get a new job, first person they
Yes.
call is my former
Yes.
boss. Why did you fire this guy?
That's
Hey.
yes.
So I was kind of unwanted. And
Oh.
then, so I really needed to go somewhere where I would be wanted or at least valued for what I can give.
Hmm.
And in China, they
That's
were
so
looking.
powerful. Can you repeat that? That's so powerful.
I needed to move to somewhere where I would be wanted or valued
Wow.
for what I can give.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. So in China, they really value English as a subject, and of course other subjects, but they value English because they want to be international. And I was exactly what they were looking for.
Wow. So you are saying in China you are really valued?
I'm really valued in China.
Wow.
Mm.
So yes, so you had that mindset to come and you came to China. Before coming to China, what was the mindset you had about China? What
Wow.
did you know much about China?
Oh, my brother, China was the place where people are eaten. Uh, they are put into cans and then and eaten or sold. That's where human trafficking was known. If you are
Whoa,
trafficked from Russia, you are sold to China. And
really?
yo, that was my idea. We also heard that they eat rats, they eat
Yes.
anything that is everything that can be eaten is eaten in China.
Wow.
And honestly, that was just the tip of the iceberg. I like
Yes.
China because of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and Jet Li,
Yes.
and those
Yes.
those guys are legends. Don,
Movies. Yeah.
ah, come on, those guys are the people I always looked up to when I was growing up. I wanted to be them. So
Exactly. Every kid, I think every kid was like that.
it was a dream for me. Yeah, so the opportunity to come to China came with, how can I say, duality. There was a part that wants to go and a part that doesn't want to go. The part that
Yeah.
wanted to go was the real me because the child wanted to go. But the part
Yes.
that didn't want to go was the adult fear of what the media says about China and what America says about China.
Wow.
Mm.
This thing about people knowing about China, I also had the same thought. Trust me, I love Chinese movies so much. As you said, every person you ask love Chinese movies, everything.
Yes.
But the reality when we talk about China, apart from
Mm.
the movies, we don't like anything about China.
Yeah.
I just don't know how that happens. Like everybody I've had conversation with, everybody is having that experience. Most things are made in China, everything, but we
Exactly.
don't.
I mean, the way everything is made in China, how can we not trust China? How can the people that are eating the rats make such good
Exactly.
products? Eh?
So these days I've always been wondering, I don't know why, but
Yeah.
okay, wow. So after having that thought and coming to China, arriving in China, your first days, your first months in China, how
Mm.
was the experience?
Wow. Let me even tell you about between the interview and
Yes.
arrival in China. That was the
Yes.
most tumultuous period in my life. And that was only
Oh,
episode one. Because, for
yeah.
starters, this friend of mine connected me to the agent who
Yes.
who immediately interviewed me in the next 3 days.
Oh,
Like, okay, I know they want teachers, but did it have to be that fast? There was something creepy about how fast it
yeah,
was going. And the interviews were
yes.
were happening in a way that was very weird for me. It was online,
Um,
and
but yeah,
the the first interview, the interviewer didn't pitch up. The second interview, I'm sorry
yeah.
if they are young viewers, but the interviewer was having sex while interviewing me.
Really?
Yes. While he was asking me questions, his lady appeared and I saw her, but I didn't think they were going to. And then
Do anything like that?
they
Oh,
started shaking. Oh my goodness. I I couldn't believe my life.
wow.
Then the third interview,
Yeah.
the man interviewed me and he asked only about 6 questions. How old are you? Can you teach?
Normal
Yes.
conversations.
It was a very weird question. What happens if children fight? What will you do? And I gave him the obvious answer. And he said, okay, you've got the job. We will send you the contract.
On the
It
during
was
the interview.
too sudden,
Oh,
too sudden. It was so scary. I started thinking about all those human trafficking that why is it so easy to get a job?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I I took it upon myself that I'll pray about it and trust that God has a way for me. And I spoke to
Yeah,
everybody that needs to know. I did my research about the possible crimes that could happen. And then
yeah,
came the day I had to go to China. He gave me the instructions and said, "This is what you have to do. When you get to Shanghai,
yeah.
you figure your way until you get to Taizhou." My brother, I did not know Chinese.
Yes,
I
yes.
struggled at the airport to buy a SIM card. I struggled
Yeah,
because nothing was working. I used the last money I had, caught a train without knowing where I was going, and it was winter. And when I got to the train station, he was not even waiting for me at the train station.
wa-
I'm like, how do you do that to a person who's coming to work for you?
for the
I
first time.
first time had to figure my way out and eventually I arrived at the place where he had directed me to go. And instead of giving me a warm welcome, he gave me
Yes,
noodles. He gave me noodles for my first night, and and he put me in the house where I was going to stay. It had no
yeah.
blanket, nothing. Middle of winter, no blankets, and the air conditioner was very far from the bed. There was
That's so
only water in the fridge.
wow,
So my first night in China, I slept with all my clothes inside of my bag.
wow. That's so strange. So, with that feeling, just that early experience, were you scared in some
I
way?
was, I was, but a part of me told me, if I go back home, what am I going back for? What am I
Wow.
really going back for? Because if I go back home, I'm back to unemployment. So I
Yes.
gotta think this through. It's a decision I made before I climbed on the plane that whatever happens on the other side, I'm gonna fight my way to where I need to be.
Wow.
I was really scared, but I had made up my mind.
So, at what point were you free? Were you out of that feeling of being scared?
Oh, that was when he did not tell me that I would be sharing the apartment with another South African guy. So, so the day the other man moved in and we
Yes.
meet each other, I'm like, "You from South Africa?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm from South Africa." He's like, are we sharing apartment?" I'm like, "No." And then he says, "Yeah." The Chinese man says, "Guys, just talk. I'll come back." So we're there talking amongst ourselves. He told me
Yeah.
and this and this, and he says he told me this and this and this and this, and
Yeah.
it's a temporary arrangement, bruh. And then we had to agree which rooms we were taking. But after that, we had to get along because I mean we're from the same country and we're in the
Yeah.
same house. We can't be fighting against each other. So
Yeah.
we formed a very tight alliance, and we spoke about how complex our current situation is in China.
Yeah.
From
Wow.
that point, I started feeling a bit homely. There's always somewhere I can go to relate to somebody.
Yeah.
Mm.
So is it that apart from that, your friend, you didn't have anybody around like African or something?
Oh yes, I had to find people in the city. There were groups of South Africans, and
Yeah.
one of my colleagues, he was from Nigeria. He said, "Listen, you're South African. I can connect you to at least one other South African." And then he gave me a number, and that number led to another number. And on the first night that we
Yeah.
got together, there were five of us. So we had a party as if we missed home.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
formed another home here in China. So I even forgot to ask when you came to China, which year?
Oh, I came on the last day of 2019,
2019. It's been a
30
long time.
30th of December. Yes.
Wow. So
Mm.
tell us, what are some of the cultural shocks you had when you arrived at the beginning?
Ah, the the one that I disliked the most was the spitting in that
Oh my
city.
God. Don't
Oh,
say.
my brother. I've never seen so many old people spitting at the same time.
That sound.
Sometimes I couldn't even digest my own food because of outside the restaurant, even inside the restaurant.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a very big culture shock for me. And
Yeah.
the second of it was how they can stare at you until you stare back. When you look at them back, then they're like, okay, okay, now I need to look away. Like, oh, but you were staring at me. Now it's my
Yeah.
turn to stare at you. I mean, you're looking at me, so I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
It's they're expecting that because they're staring at you, you must also look away and be shy.
Yeah. Wow.
Uh, the other culture shock was in South Africa, we drive on the left and we overtake on the right. In China, they
Yeah.
drive on the right and they overtake on the left. Very
Yeah.
big difference. It confuses me every time. So when I cross over the traffic lights, I don't know where to look first, and I always get it wrong.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, and I guess the other one was the language. I was shocked at how many people actually don't know English. I thought because they invited English people, they would know a
Yeah.
lot of English, but wow, it's a big population that doesn't know any English.
Wow.
Mm,
So, yeah, I would like to come from the language barrier. I think that is one of the biggest challenge of so many people.
yes.
How were you able to cope without Chinese? And how is your Chinese now?
Wow, 现在我会说啊，嘿，
Oh, 那你真棒，你很厉害。
真棒啊。No, right. Um, Before coming to China, I downloaded
Yeah,
an app called something Duolingo.
Duolingo. Yeah,
Yeah. Duolingo. I used it to learn Chinese for my first, let's say, 6 months. I was very consistent. I would spend an hour on Duolingo and learn characters, but my
wow,
pronunciation was bad. So
yeah.
whenever I meet Chinese people, I just try my luck, and I would be lucky. I always bump into someone who wants to go out and speak rotten Chinese with me.
Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I learned most of my Chinese, from the street.
Oh, wait. So that you are talking about after you came to China?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
So meaning if anybody wants to learn, they have to be confident and just hang out with more Chinese to
yeah.
learn the language.
Especially
Yeah.
especially the security guards. Most
Yeah.
places have a security guy, and he doesn't have anything to do. So you're the first person to speak to him. Of course, he's gonna engage in conversation.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's really true. I've
Mm.
observed that so many times. Wow. Then I think what really motivated you to learn the language because you are an English teacher. You are supposed to teach English, and even I know in some schools you are not allowed to even speak Chinese. You
Mm.
are supposed to speak just English to teach them and everything.
Very
What
true.
motivated you? I think what motivated you to learn the language?
That is a very good question, actually, because if you are going to live among people,
Yeah.
they click and bond with you better when you know their home language. They don't take you so much as a foreigner. Yes, your skin will represent you as a foreigner, but when you
Yes.
speak a person's language, you touch a certain part of their hearts, and they have an ability to trust you or invite you more to their life.
Wow, that's really true. This reminds me of one of Nelson Mandela's quotes. He said, when you speak to a man in a language he understands, it goes to
Yes,
his head. But when
yes,
you speak to a man in his own language, it goes to his heart. And trust me, I never knew that until I also came to China. Through the
wow,
languages, like you can connect to so many people. If you
yes,
really want to touch the hearts of people,
mm,
just learn their language.
yes,
I personally, I just meet some people who are not Ghanaians, then they just speak just one Ghanaian word,
yeah,
and I become so amazed. I become so moved. I was like, what? I used at the beginning with Chinese people, I was like, these people, when you just say ni hao, ni de zhong wen jie ma hao. I was
somehow,
like,
and it's not even that good.
yeah. Meanwhile, my Chinese is just so. I
Yes,
didn't understand until I also had several experience. So
mm,
it's really true.
mm,
Languages is one of the powerful way to touch people.
yes,
Wow.
very
And
true.
how did you know that? For me, I didn't know that, like, if you are able to learn language, you can really unconsciously. Me, I knew that unconsciously.
Mm.
How did you know that if you learn the language, you can really touch most of them or get connected?
In South Africa, there are
Yeah.
11 official languages,
Oh
and
wow.
um, you will learn that English is only the language that the president uses to talk to us, right? But
Yes.
every province has its languages, and
Yeah.
I managed to live in about 3 or 4 different provinces. So
Oh.
in those years, I I used to get teased for speaking my home language by the people of that province. And eventually, because I got tired of being teased, I learned the language so that they would stop teasing me. And it
Yeah.
worked. So I
Oh.
go to the next province. Before they tease me, I've already got my language on point, and then we start communicating. So eventually, when I left South Africa, I already knew 7 languages.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Then I think you must be good at languages already. So I will not say that was a big challenge. You were already moved to learn the language when you just arrived.
Yeah.
Wow.
Came natural.
That's so nice. So what are some of the challenges you face during those days at the beginning?
Um, do you know that in 2020, only
Yes.
20 days after I had arrived, COVID started.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was one of the few lucky people that managed to get into China before COVID. The problem was I
You
couldn't
say
leave.
lucky?
I say lucky.
Okay. That
I,
was probably
I,
people were telling people to leave China and you are calling that lucky?
I was the most blessed person that can exist in terms of COVID,
How possible?
because not only did I find a wife in China, I
Oh,
married her and we have 2 children in China.
wow. Wow.
Our
Was
relationship
yeah.
started during COVID. Like when COVID was starting, our relationship was starting.
Wow.
Mm,
Interesting. I
yeah.
now understand. Oh.
So
So whilst others were saying we should leave China, you were enjoying.
not really. The first 6 months, let me just say the first year for me
Yes.
was a challenge because of course I came broke to China. So I
Yeah.
needed the money to pay the loans that I had in South Africa. But
Yes.
when COVID started, our bosses could not pay us our salaries that they promised.
Yeah.
And imagine you are being promised 9,000 and the boss just decides, guys, I'm giving you 4,000. I'm like, what? Okay, then he gives you four. He's like, next month you're getting 1,000. Oh my goodness. That was
Really?
such a painful period. That 6 months was the hardest because I had things to pay. I had a car
Yeah.
back in South Africa that almost got repossessed as a result of the non-payments of my salary.
Yeah.
And I could not even afford my own life in China. I was living
Yes.
on the bare minimum, and we were constantly fighting our boss for the next salary, such that by the time May arrived, we were so angry with the boss
Yes.
that South African friend of mine and I constantly were communicating with him that, listen, if you are going to mistreat us this bad, you might as well nullify our contract and release
Yeah.
us without any consequences. Because if we report you to the labor laws, you and your company are going to go down. So it's better you
Yeah.
release us. And
Yes.
he wanted us to threaten him. We threatened him. We took the whole group of Chinese and we went together to
Yes.
the labor office to report his
Oh,
treatment.
wow.
And that's when he's like, okay, guys, come, come, come. What do you want? And he signed us off. And we said, don't just do that. Give us money also to go to the next city because we are
Yeah.
broke, at least to find a new job. And that was our agreement. He closed our work visas
Yes.
honestly, and he gave us 500 kwai to go to the next city.
Just 500.
Just 500. He
Mm.
told us that he was bankrupt. He can't afford us. We're too expensive for him.
Wow. Mm. I think so many people, teachers are going through these kind of challenges, and
Mm.
several, these are one of the biggest challenges of workers like teachers in China.
Mm.
Um, how were you able to cope with this situation? Because most of the bosses try to threaten others and all. How were you able to manage with this situation?
I think I the first part was that at least I had another person who was in the exact same situation and was
Yeah.
forcefully sharing a house with me. So I had somewhere to go and cry. And that person, that person understood me because we are struggling
Yeah.
the same. And then at that time, my now wife was still a friend of mine.
Yeah.
So she was there and she had her own problems, slightly different from mine, but similarly,
Similar.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, very similar.
Challenges.
And
Yeah.
so this little circle of ours was very helpful for talking and being able to fight together. When we go against her bosses, we go together. When we go against my bosses, we go together, you know. And
Yeah.
also, um, she helped me because when I was broke, she would say, you can come and eat at my apartment. I still have food. We put
Mm.
money together for the food and so on.
Wow.
And even when we were finding jobs, we started small groups of helping each other find jobs in other cities, and that's how we survived. We found jobs for each other and we managed to move from that situation.
Wow. I love the part that you said you had people to cry to, people who could understand you. Yeah.
Yes,
I think
yes,
sometimes when you have some challenges and you don't get the right people, they might not really understand or relate to what you are really trying to talk about.
true.
So, how was it so easy to transit to another job? Because I've met several people who always complain about their bosses not allowing them to change their jobs. They keep their work permits, like these kind of challenges. Why was yours so easy?
My brother, that question is very important. When you know your rights, you will be able to fight for them. But when you don't
Wow.
know your rights, you cannot fight for them.
Wow.
So
How
when
did
you
you know? Oh, yeah, you finish.
yeah, so the first thing we found was there's a lawyer in
Yes.
China who fights for foreigners. We got into the WeChat group and we would throw questions like, is your boss allowed to keep your visa? What if he takes your visa? What must you do? That guy would even fight for us. And even if he never makes it to the meeting, you can
Yeah.
put his name and say, this guy is coming today. The bosses shake. They start to shake and they give you your stuff.
Oh wow. What's the name of the lawyer?
His name is Fei. Fei.
Oh, FEI. Oh,
Yes.
okay. I don't really know. Probably they are the same. But next week, I'll be having a Chinese lawyer on this platform, and
Wow.
he will be explaining most of the laws of this, especially for workers and students for us. So that's why I asked whether to see if it's the same lawyer. Wow. But
Ah,
I love the part that you talked about. You knew your right.
mhm.
So, oh, you mentioned you met that lawyer. So, had it not been that lawyer, you wouldn't have known your right.
Yes. In fact, we were communicating with him so regularly that we didn't even need him to come because he had already put us up to date according to law number on page this of the constitution of this year. So when we went to our
Wow,
bosses, we were like, guys, you guys don't know this law, but we know it. And those guys
interesting.
were like, whoa, these guys are not people to be messed with. So you need to give us our papers now, or we take it further. That's how we even managed to go to the labor law company.
Wow,
We
that's
had our
so
facts straight.
wow. So I can now say that most people are always stranded because they do not know their right.
Correct.
Wow, that's so powerful. So next week I'll be having that lawyer, and I'll be so hopeful that he can explain most of the laws of the land to people so that it will
Mm,
be useful to them. Wow. So likely for you had that, then that was a little bit easy. And once they got to know you knew the laws very well, they released you guys.
yes.
Wow. That's so interesting. So I can say that you have to know your right. Can you advise someone that even before they come to China, they should know their right or something? Or we should get some, is it, I don't know, is it a constitution or something to know what are the laws we must know?
I think it would be better to know even before you arrive, or at least before coming to China, be on the groups that have a lawyer where you can ask the questions that are bugging you, or you can see what other people are busy asking and you can prepare your mind. Okay, these are the challenges they're facing and this is how they are solving them. It will help you a
Wow.
great deal.
Wow, that's so powerful. I think so many times people are always afraid because of people's past experience. Had it
Mm,
not been you mentioning this, I didn't know something like this. Most people are always stranded. Oh, some bosses can just do anything. You have
yeah.
nothing to say. That's their country. But
Mm,
actually, it's not so
it's
from
not
what
true.
you just know. Oh,
Mm. Did you
wow.
know? Have you read the book of Nelson Mandela?
Not really.
I only
Which,
read it last year. Don't feel bad about it, okay? I read it last year, but
yeah,
it's called The Long Walk to Freedom, and it
the
talks
long
mostly
walk.
about,
Oh,
yeah, the long walk to freedom. The
I
part
should
where
read.
he's in prison, he speaks
Yes.
about how they had found ways to how can I put it? They found ways to survive and make prison livable because there are always laws that even the prison warder must follow.
Wow.
So, as much as he was in prison, he knew his
Yes.
rights in prison.
Wow.
Mm,
I should get that book
yeah.
and read. Wow, that's so powerful.
Mm.
So, what are some of the challenges you face during your teaching period, teaching in China or working in China?
Teaching in China, well, for starters, it's so different from teaching in South Africa because um, it depends which school you're teaching at. If it's a
Yeah.
training center, you are not told how much energy you have to use, and that they will scrutinize you for how much energy you use and how much energy you don't use. You could literally get fired for lack of energy. I did not know.
Really?
Yes, you can get fired for lack of energy. I know about three people whose bosses came and told them, hey man, the parents say you don't jump in class. And the guy would be like, what's this guy saying? Next week, he's not even in the school. He's fired. What? So then you start
Really?
jumping now. Hey, 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 be, it's gonna be very, very intense. Uh, so it was a challenge. I mean, I was not used to using that amount of energy,
Yeah.
and it was adjusting to the schedule. In South Africa, Monday to
Yeah.
Friday are the days to work. Saturday and
Yeah.
Sunday was the day to rest. But in China, it was
Yeah.
Monday and Tuesday days off, and then Wednesday to Sunday we were working. And mostly Friday night was hectic,
Yes.
Saturday night was more hectic, Sunday night was even more hectic.
Intense.
We were like, what is going on? You cannot communicate with people out of the country because you are busy.
Yes.
They are not.
Wow.
And you are free when they are busy. It was a lot.
Interesting. For you, you were a teacher back in South Africa
Yes,
and before coming to China. So you
yes.
had the experience of teaching in both sides. What is the gap between these two countries in terms of teaching? What are the difference?
Um, wow. I know that in China, they have the discipline in order. They take discipline very serious compared to in South Africa. In South Africa, the discipline now children have too many rights, so you can't really punish them for doing wrong.
Yeah.
And then comes the curriculum. Our South African curriculum compared to the
Yeah.
Chinese curriculum is very slow. We pace ourselves at a very relaxed state. We're not in a hurry. But in
Yeah.
China, they're in a hurry to know everything now. And it's like they're chasing
Really?
after America and trying to be beyond them or something. It's
Oh,
a real competition.
wow.
And in China, the
Yes.
standard of passing is very serious and very high. If you are passing with an 80, you're not
Yes.
considered as intelligent. But in South Africa,
Oh,
80 is a very good mark.
the best.
Wow, the best. Number one is 80.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it's quite a big difference. Right now, imagine I'm teaching grade three. I'm finally
Yes.
in a normal school. I teach grade three. But the things that my grade threes are learning are the things
Yes.
that I learned in grade six and seven.
Wow. Interesting. Wow. Is it because of the population? Probably. Oh,
Um, I think in general, the Asians are very competitive people. They've got a target to at least either be excelling and leading the world in a lot of things, technology, academics, sports, and so on. And for that to happen, they have to first push the academics up front, push it ahead, and then the rest will follow.
oh, wow.
Mhm.
That's so interesting. So, teaching based on their salary as compared to back home. I don't want you to mention figures or something, but the the allowances or the benefits.
Yes.
How is it in China, and why must somebody even think of coming to China to teach
Well,
English?
that is also a very good question. Relative to South Africa, first you have to compare the rand and the Chinese yuan. One yuan is worth 2.5 rands. So
Wow,
even if you get the same salary that you got in South Africa, it's double
doubled. Wow,
immediately. It's double or almost triple. And
yeah,
then the second part is that in China, the cost of living is lower. So the things that you needed in South Africa, you don't need in China. They are paying for
yeah.
your accommodation at least, most of
Oh,
them. And then all you worry about is electricity and water, and they pay for your tax, so you don't have to worry about that too. And then
really?
yes,
They pay for your tax?
yeah,
Oh, I didn't. I
they pay
didn't
for
know
our
that.
tax. That is the most amazing part. When you negotiate a new contract, you say, I want my salary after tax, not before tax. And then they pay the tax and you get the leftover.
Wait, I don't understand about the tax.
Hmm.
When you sign the contract, they tell you to. I don't. I didn't understand that statement. I don't
I
know
can
if you can
explain.
repeat.
Don't
Yeah.
worry, I'll explain it. So you have options.
Yes.
Um, when they hire you, they tell you, for example, we will give you 16,000 before tax. If you're getting
Okay.
16,000 before tax, it means that tax is your responsibility. You have to go to the tax office, register your
Oh,
foreign name, and then you find out, oh man, tax is actually going to be 4,000 RMB. So actually, my real salary is 11,000.
yeah.
But if they say after tax, we give you 16,000, it means
Yeah.
you're probably getting 20, but they've already paid the tax and you're getting the 16,000.
Oh, okay. So is it that the tax is not always fixed? Sometimes it can be different.
Yes, there are levels. Um, if you are earning something like 10,000 renminbi per month, the tax
Yeah.
is going to be about almost 1,000 renminbi. But if you're earning 15,000, the tax
Yeah.
becomes 1,500. If you're earning anything 20 and above to 30, the tax will be about 2,500 or 3,000.
Wow. I'm
Mm.
really enjoying the conversation only to check time that we are almost
Oh,
use about an hour now. Wow.
it's okay. Take your time. I'm not in a hurry, luckily.
Oh, okay, okay, sure. So,
Mm,
among all these cultural diversities that you experience, this cultural shock and everything,
mm.
how has it changed you, or what effect has it gotten on you?
Yeah, that is a very, very deep question. I might have to think a little. Um,
Okay.
you know what I appreciate about China?
Mm,
Um, in South Africa, we have democracy, which means
yes.
we have freedom of speech. We can say what we want about the president anytime. Even
Yes.
on this YouTube platform, I can say I don't like the president, and I won't get in any trouble.
Yes.
But in China, I cannot do that because they respect the people that are leading to an
Yes.
extent that even if maybe there are some misjudgments about how to lead them, but
Yes.
the overall plan for their country is working, and therefore the people respect the overall plan.
Wow.
So it means the as much as we might as people take for granted the ability of a leader to move a group of people from one place to another, but it is
Yeah.
actually vital to have a good leader in place in order to move a whole community from one place to another.
Wow. That's so powerful. I think I've always been thinking about that too several times
Mm,
because comparing to Ghana, we talk about freedom of worship, eh, freedom of speech, and all those things,
yes.
democracy. But
Mm,
I don't see the essence of democracy if we can have leaders who we cannot have that kind of influence just talking anyhow and they can
mm,
develop the system. Why not?
yeah.
These are the kind of questions I've been asking myself several times. If
Mm,
that will be working for us, why not?
yes.
Wow, interesting. Any
Very,
other point? I love that point so much.
wow. So the other influence I got from China is they they are communal. In other words, as much as the salaries of the common man might be
Ye-
low, but
Yes.
the country itself accommodates their lifestyle. Let me give you a deeper example.
Okay,
A
sure.
person who works for 4,000 RMB
Yeah.
can live a normal life just like a person who earns 16,000 RMB because there is a bicycle that you can lend for 1.5 kwai. There's a
Yes.
train that you can ride for 2 kwai, and
Yes.
there's definitely a restaurant where you can buy food for 10 kwai
Yes.
every day. So you can live within your means, and you can even find rental properties for 500 kwai per month and be well off. Nobody will even notice that you're not earning so
Mhm.
much. You are
Wow.
living well off, like nobody will see you.
Interesting. So must we say, can I say is they have advanced system?
Yes. That advanced system is not just for the rich. In South Africa, we have an advanced system, but it
Yeah.
accommodates the rich. You know what I mean?
That's what I was about to ask because
Mm,
me as a Ghanaian, I always see South Africa so high. I see so many Ghanaians going to South Africa. So
yes.
for only for you to say this, so what is that difference?
The difference is it accommodates only the rich. If you're rich in South Africa, you will have the most comfortable life ever. But when you're poor, my
Yeah.
friend, you would rather come to China because even the public transport is expensive. So if you're earning the same amount, the 4,000
Yes.
renminbi in South Africa, you will not
Yeah.
be able to finish a month with that money because the price
Because of
of
other
everything
expenses.
is very expensive. It accommodates only those who are high earners.
Wow.
Mm,
Interesting. Advanced system in China. What else
yes.
again? Do you have
Mm,
any?
the third thing, um, the way they manage their crime, I must admit, has had a
Hmm.
very huge influence on me. Only recently, this is my my fourth year in China. In
Yeah.
my other 3 years, I have never experienced any theft of any of my property. But
Ooh.
this year they stole three of my helmets and they stole my bicycle. I had always been hearing stories about it happens in certain provinces, but it only happened to me this year. And
Yeah.
what I discovered, because when they stole the bicycle, I went to the police station with a Chinese
Yeah.
friend of mine. We opened the case and they did not find the bicycle, meaning that they did not rewind the cameras. And then he
Yes.
told me on my way home that, how much does your bicycle cost? If it costs less than 1,500, my friend, you're playing. The police don't have time. They look at how much your item costs in order for them
Yes.
to investigate. Is it worth the amount of money we'll be using to investigate?
So probably they could have really found it if they wanted to.
If they wanted to, they would have found it. I would have had my bicycle back.
Wait, you talked about cameras. What
Yeah,
kind of cameras are you talking about?
there are cameras everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Our apartments have cameras outside. When you exit the apartment, there are cameras. Every traffic block has a camera. Every bus station has a camera. Inside the bus, there's a camera. Inside the taxi, there's a camera. So if somebody kidnaps you in the taxi, they can
Yes.
rewind those and they will find you. If
So
the bus
easily.
driver mistreats you, they can rewind the cameras and find out what happened. It is within their power. They have the ability to. So that's why the crime is so low,
Crime rate is so low in China?
very, very low. Have you been to South Africa?
No, I've not been
Ha!
to South
Even though I'm from there, I would even advise don't just go there without a gun. Have a gun before you go. In South Africa, I have been mugged 7 times. I have lost 7 cell phones.
Wow.
A cell phone is so expensive, but the police will never find it. They don't even know how to start. In South
Wow.
Africa, I have lost a car. A car is something that can be traced and tracked.
Yeah.
They did not find my car.
Wow. Trust
They,
me.
yeah, the list is endless. It is so long. We have been robbed in our house. Like we even knew who the people were who came and broke into our house. When you go to
But you,
the police just say, okay, write it down, but they won't do anything about it.
wow. How is it so? Because I have the same experience. I feel sad saying that, but in a Ghana, Accra, even when you are in the public system, your bag, you cannot even put it, your backpack cannot be, it will be front pack.
Yes, it's the same.
Wow. So you are saying in China the crime rate is very, very low.
Very, very low. In South Africa, you cannot walk with your phone freely like this, talking to your friend. Somebody can just while you're walking, and then they run, and you chase them, and you will never catch them. and other people will just be going, "Oh, oh my goodness, oh." it,
Wow.
it is a shock. People walk at
Interesting.
night, they walk freely with their phones in their hands, listening to music. Nobody cares. It is safe.
Wow, interesting. So I'm sure right now somebody is also doubting whether to come to China
Mm,
personally to work. I know most foreigners come to China to
mm,
work.
mm,
What will you tell somebody in this situation, in a dilemma whether to come to China
mm.
or not?
I would tell them to come to China, um, especially because if you have the right people in your corner, China will be the best experience ever, even better than your own country. Yes, of course, there will be the language barrier, but if you have people who can tell you what they did to survive the barriers, you will be very, very comfortable in China. Very comfortable.
Wow.
Mm.
I'm so happy that you didn't come to China only to work, but you came to find love. Wow.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Well, brother, actually, I don't know. Maybe my ex-girlfriend might watch this one day. So I have to put
Okay.
it out in the open, okay? So that
Yeah.
I'm not hypocritical.
Okay. Okay.
When I came to China, I had a
Yes.
girl, okay? I had been dating her for about some 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I had actually hoped I would marry her.
Yeah.
And when I came to China, I told her, listen, I first have to deal with my debt, and
Yes.
then I can marry you. But with debt, I cannot marry you. So she blessed me to come to China.
Does not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the long distance is what began the problem. I think trust issues of who are you meeting in China? Who are you spending your time with? Why
Yeah.
don't you call me at this time? Imagine we are 6 hours apart. I
Yeah.
cannot keep the same timetable as her. And
Yes.
those were the struggles, the beginning struggles. But then over time, those struggles became bigger, and the list goes on and on. And I felt personally, I cannot do this anymore. And
Wow.
so I had to break it off. And that's when my friendship with my now wife started, because I had somebody to talk to about my frustrations. I had a relationship, and she also had her own relationship back in South Africa.
Mm.
She was like, "Yeah,
Yes.
I date this other guy, blah 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 blah," and yeah, me too. My girlfriend doesn't understand me. Ah, yeah, 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 blah, 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 blah. And we related in that regard. So
Yeah.
eventually, when I broke it off, I had at least known what I want and what I don't want in
Yes.
a relationship.
Wow. I'm so happy you have been very open to this, and I'm sure it will be very useful to so many people.
Mm,
Many times before me leaving Ghana, I always hear, oh, one partner traveled to abroad and now
mm.
the partner is no more interested anymore. And I feel like, people can be so wicked. Why do they do that? And all those things until I travel out of China.
Yeah.
For me personally, I felt like sometimes even some of my friends that I used to vibe with them so much, I'm unable to do because
Mm.
the level has changed.
Yes.
They cannot relate, understand what I'm really saying, and
Yes.
all those things.
Yes.
What do you think is about the level that has changed?
Mm,
What really caused this thing? This kind
mm.
of situation? Yeah, because people mostly say the system, once the person leave, or the system will break that relationship. What I just don't know how to put the question, but I don't know if you understand
I
what
understand
I'm
your question. It's similar to
yeah,
that book we were reading this Sunday, Who Moved My Cheese, right?
yes, yes,
In that book, we discovered there are four characters, and
yes,
the two are humans and the two are rats. The two rats, immediately when the cheese was gone, they started moving together. They knew it
yes.
came over. And then the
Wow,
other two, they were arguing inside their brains first of all, and secondly they were arguing physically. Should we go or should we stay? Now That one human that decided to go is us, the ones that went to China.
Yes.
How can you still be talking the same way as the one who decided to stay?
Not not
Highly
possible.
impossible. We are
Yeah.
now on a different level of thought. My
Yes.
thought is saying, I cannot stay in a situation that does not benefit me. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
their situation is, this is the only situation I've known, and therefore I will stay. We are not talking the same language.
Wow. That's so powerful. The book he just mentioned is called Who is titled Who Moved My Cheese.
My
It's a
cheese.
very powerful book I read recently. If you have never read it, go and get it and read it. Wow, that's so powerful. So we need to speak the same language, and
Mm,
if it's not possible, we should understand and accept that levels have changed.
yes.
Wow,
It
so
is similar.
interesting.
In fact,
Yeah,
if I was to put it psychologically,
yeah,
when this young man finally met the two rats in
yes,
their new cheese land, they were
yeah,
fat. He saw them. In the book, it says he was excited, almost as if he could say, "Hello, old friends." but he remembered they are rats and I'm a human, you know. But the fact
yeah.
is, him and the rats wanted the same thing,
Wow,
and therefore he could relate more to a rat than he could to his old human friend.
wow, very powerful. Wow, bringing this book scenario in to explain things so simple to us.
Yeah.
What brought about you writing a book? What is the title, even of your book?
It's funny you ask. My book is called That Cloud Has a Silver Lining.
Which cloud?
That one.
Interesting.
So I wanted the pun to be intended because there's a the common saying every cloud has a silver lining, but they actually mean every gray cloud is silver at the bottom, which means no matter how bad a situation may be, there's always
Yes.
light somewhere on the other
Wow.
side.
Wow.
Mm. So
Interest is yeah.
when I was in university, actually from grade 12, I used to write poetry um, to myself. I was not writing it to publish it or anything,
Yeah.
but I was writing because at that time, honestly, I felt misunderstood. I felt a disconnect between my current environment, which was high school, and the
Yes.
environment that I was living at home. And I needed to tell somebody who would understand me. And at that time, the only person who understood me was my book. So I
Wow.
wrote poems almost as if I'm talking to somebody who
Somebody.
understands me better than the people that are around me.
Wow. That's so powerful. So
Yeah.
in summary, what is that book about?
The book is about situations that a person faces in life and how you can read them in order to come out better instead of worse.
Wow. That must be a powerful book. And I think everyone must get that book. Where can somebody get that book in case? And I know in the future, we'll have you just personally for the book. We'll
Yeah.
just talk about the book and they'll say, how can somebody get you if the person wants that book?
The book can be found on a couple of platforms, Amazon being the
Yeah,
most prevalent, and there's also Smashwords, there's also Barnes and Able, there's also Kobo, there's also
yes.
Shop Vivilio, there's also Talia, and yeah, even on Take a Lot in South Africa, it's available.
Wow.
And here
Um,
In China, I
yeah,
made some copies as well. So on WeChat, people can contact me and I'll be able to send a copy.
yeah. Right from here, I'll be getting my copy.
That's awesome news.
Yeah, so I'll be putting the links of these platforms in the description box for anybody who needs one of the book to get some. Guys, get some and read. I know we are all going through some situations, and I know it will be an inspiration to
Mm.
inspire you to come out of that situation. Before we even wrap up and end, the time is just like 10
It's
minutes.
flying.
I'm just,
It felt like five.
yeah. So, you have your family here, or they are back in South Africa?
They're here.
Oh,
My wife and two children are here in this house right now.
oh wow.
Mm.
That's so great. I'm really impressed. I can see you really love the word of God.
Yes, I do.
How is freedom of worship in China? Are you able to worship freely?
Yes, yes. I thought you were gonna continue the question. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
able to go to a church. We have a church where we meet, and I know the stigma was that in China you're not allowed to be a Christian, but what they don't
Yeah.
know is they in China they allow Chinese to worship together and
Yeah.
foreigners to worship together. The only
Oh,
time when you have a problem is when you try and mix Chinese and foreigners.
oh, okay.
Yes, so that's why you will find churches where they are mostly Africans together, churches where they are mostly Filipinos together, churches where they are Chinese together. So I do have a fellowship place. Um, yeah, and we get to worship the Lord in one space and listen to
Wow.
preach and have
Wow.
fellowship.
That's so great to hear.
Mm.
The main reason why you left South Africa was to feel valued and wanted.
Yes.
Are you thinking of going back to South Africa anymore?
Wow. I would want to go back if I will be able to sustain the life I'm living right now. I think I cannot go back as the same person to the poverty, or should I say, lack of income that I had. So
Yes.
the only right condition to go back to South Africa is if I've secured a an income that can sustain my current lifestyle.
Wow.
Mm,
That's so powerful. I personally, I was also contemplating after my school, should I go back to Ghana
mm.
or, and I think what you have said really makes sense. What will be the point to go back if you are still not valued and you are unable to sustain this kind of life, which we can say a better life as
Yes.
compared to
Mm.
previous?
I
You
mean,
talked about,
think
yeah,
about it like this. Um, when you read these books about wealth and richness, I'm sure you must have read one, but the
yes,
common theme among them is that true wealth is being able to retire knowing that you don't have to worry about how much money will keep you at the current lifestyle you're living. So, the real
yeah,
purpose of why people retire is because they want to continue where they are without working for it. But if I go back, I would have to work twice as hard to just to keep this level. It would be better that I first group myself, put a stable source of income that doesn't
yes.
need me to be there all the time. Then I can go and live it.
Wow. You talked about much about poverty and all those things. After
Mm,
coming out of these kind of situations and all those stuff,
mm.
what idea or what plans do you have in mind to also change lives, especially in Africa?
Yes. Wow, man, you're touching a very serious topic of of my mind because um, I thought of leadership and people you can collaborate with in order to make a country better. Um,
Wow.
if you've ever read about South Korea and how they managed to raise their country from the previous status after the Civil War to where they are
Yes.
now economically. It was based on how their leadership decided that we are going to send students to
Yes.
America and Canada and Europe to study how their systems are run, and they come back and they apply their knowledge to South Korea. And therefore, the economy grew and became better. And it is the same with any country that has actually developed to date. They learned from
Yes.
outside and they applied it to themselves. So if I was to go back to South Africa, one of my projects would be to get a group of like-minded people to use the knowledge we have of being out of the country to apply
Yes.
it to South Africa and change it.
Wow. I'm so happy you have that plans in mind because even though life is better here, but I always feel like there's still no place like home. And I'm
Yes.
happy you have those plans in mind. And
Mm.
I hope by God's grace you can fulfill all of them. But
Yeah.
then, why have you not started? Do you need to go to South Africa before you start that?
No, you don't need to, but you need to have connections and people that trust you. So in South Africa, trust is more of a physical issue. Um, we may start over the phone, but for the
Yes,
real deals to happen, we must be
in
meeting
person.
physically, yeah, in
Yeah.
person. Mm,
Wow. That's so powerful, and I'm so happy you have all those plans in mind.
mm.
Before we leave, I'll have last two questions before we leave due
Bring
to
them
our
on.
time. Yeah.
Uh,
After coming to China these several years and all those things, how has China impacted you? Is it positively or negatively? Flashing back 2019, thinking of coming to China, doubting of coming to China. And after
mm,
these several years,
mm.
how has that impacted you?
China has impacted me positively in the sense that um, I have become more productive, and I have a different view of how I used to see the world compared to how I saw it while I was in South Africa. Now I have more more of a desire to help South Africans and other African countries to rise to the level of what China is. It's it's become a desire as a result of coming to China, because
Yeah,
in China, the Chinese think that we are so poor. They think that
yeah,
Africa is so, they even think Africa is one country. That's the
yeah,
shocking part. They think the whole of Africa is poor. We don't even know the difference between a zoo and our homes. And
yeah,
we are here basically educating them that, guys, we are not that dumb and we are not that poor.
yeah,
We actually know how to use cell phones in Africa. Okay. And some of us in South Africa are richer than you Chinese here. So
yeah.
um, it made me feel like if ever we are to go back, we cannot go back the same. We need to be doing something greater than what we've done before coming to China.
Wow, wow, that's so powerful. I love that. I'm so passionate about investing back, giving back to our countries and our continent.
Mm.
What advice will you give to your countrymates working in China?
Oh, working in China. Ah. I first have to
Well,
touch on majority of the ones that I knew. They are party animals. Hey, South African. Hey, they're not planning to go back. And they're just eating all their money. They're not thinking of the future. So I would like to advise them that as much as you are enjoying today,
yeah.
also have enough for tomorrow. You never
Wow.
know the day the president of China can decide all the foreigners need to go back to their
Leave.
countries. And
Yeah.
then you cannot go back home with nothing. It will be a waste. It will be a
Yes.
waste. So if you are in China now and you are working hard, jumping at a kindergarten, shouting at the top of your voice, please remember that there is also tomorrow that you have to think about. And it is worthwhile knowing how to invest in tomorrow as you know how to invest today.
Wow. That's so powerful. I think so many people can apply that in their lives.
Mm.
Before we even end, lastly, what are your last words for anyone thinking of coming to China or doing anything in China?
Um, Come to China with an open mind. Don't
Wow.
come here with what you see on social media and what social media wants you to believe. Come here, set your own expectations, and live by them. As long as you are within the law, you will survive and you will live very well in China. And make friends, very good friends, will take you very far.
Wow.
Mm.
Mr. Sepe, sorry if I didn't pronounce the name well. How do you can you remind me again?
Tshepo.
Sepo, Sepo.
Yes.
In fact, personally, I love your voice so much. You have
Really?
a voice. I don't know if you are good at singing, but I really love your voice.
My wife does not believe in my singing.
Oh, then she have to start believing now. I love your voice so much, and it's more than an hour now, and I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed this conversation. But
Likewise.
due to time, we have to end here. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for being so open
Mm.
and sharing some of your personal lives with some people. I know
Yeah.
this will go a long way to help others in their lives, in their daily endeavors and everything. And
Mm.
above all, I would like to appreciate your family for accepting and allowing you to come on this platform to share your life experience with us. And in the future, we would love to have you more. And we'll talk about several experiences to improve our lives, our families, our society, and everything.
I
Thank
look
you
forward.
very much.
Ah, thank you so much for hosting me. I really appreciate this time and these questions. I think your questions are the reason why I wanted to come here. So
Wow.
I love this platform very much. In fact, I watched the show of the engineer, and
Yes.
I was laughing so hard on my own. I couldn't wait for this moment just to
Wow.
ask these questions. I was very impressed. So
Wow.
thank you for inviting me to your show.
Thank you very much for
Mm.
having us too, and see you some other time.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where time will permit us to end today's live stream. And don't forget, every week we'll be having special guests to share their experience with you. An experience that can impact your life, an experience that can improve your life, an experience that will prevent you from going through several challenges in your life. Stay tuned and don't forget, next week we'll be having a Chinese lawyer who will be coming to share all the laws you need to know in China as a foreigner. Thank you very much and stay tuned for our next live. See you all. Bye bye.
Bye.